for joining us. We continue our series, Baby Bumps and Road Humps. What are the challenges for young families in BC? Today, we ask, what supports do new parents need in the early newborn days? What was it like for you adjusting to parenthood? And you can share your advice for new parents. Plus, more of your thoughts on the housing crisis and young families in BC. After 12:30, Halloween costumes. We want to hear all about your creative and clever DIY costumes. We'll be joined by the head of wardrobe at the Arts Club Theatre in Vancouver. Hi, Michelle Eliot. Welcome to BC Today. Thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1, live streaming as well on CBC Gem, cbc.ca/BC, and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. And yes, in about half an hour from now, we are talking all about Halloween costumes. You can send us your photos of your costumes right now, and we'll showcase them on our live stream. Just email them to us, bctoday@cbc.ca. So you may just see them on the show in about half an hour from now. And yesterday in our series, Baby Bumps and Road Humps, we asked how the housing crisis is impacting young families. And here are some of your emails now. Katrina writes, we moved from the Comox Valley to the city of Port Alberni to afford housing and to start a family. We were lucky enough to buy a house once moving here. As a new person to the community, I have met many others with the same story here. We definitely delayed having a child because of affordability, and we also won't be having a second child because of the costs. And Tracy writes, 6 years ago, my partner and I left our 250 square foot bachelor apartment in Strathcona, which cost $1,500 a month, and purchased a 40-foot boat that has more space than our apartment did. We live well and inexpensively in this crazy market. We have waterfront views. Something needs to change. Too many people are struggling. Who are all these new builds being constructed for? Not people living on limited or modest incomes. Build more affordable rentals. This is the only way out of this crisis. Marjorie writes, Canada is the second largest country in the world, and the perception is of never-ending space. People came here to improve their lives. They wanted to own in a never-ending space. Europe is small. It has hundreds of years of renting. The situation cannot be compared. The housing perception is similar to the preference for university education as opposed to technical or trade schools. Trades are still well respected in Europe, but looked down on here because people came here to better themselves. Ryan writes, there has been an affordability crisis for many years. Housing is a commodity. That's not going to get better without change. 1, get rid of the capital gains exemption and watch it fix itself. It's an obvious loophole that investors cannot resist. 2, get rid of Airbnb. 3, limit the number of homes one can own. We raised our son in an old party house that we rent. After I put $10,000 into renos and made it, quote, livable, we have been renting it for way more than it's worth for 15 years. My wife and I now have no retirement funds or assets, no savings to leave our son. Canada is quickly becoming a losing enterprise. Thanks so much to Ryan and to everybody emailing us. You can always send us your thoughts on anything you hear. It's bctoday@cbc.ca. And yes, this week we are looking at the challenges faced by young families in BC. Yesterday, we talked about the housing crisis. And today on our series, Baby Bumps and Road Humps, we are asking, what supports do new parents need in those early newborn days? What were they like for you? And what helped? What didn't help? And what's your advice for new parents as well? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can reach us by email as well. It's bctoday@cbc.ca. I'm joined by 2 guests now. Ruth Skuteski is a registered clinical counselor with Illuminate Counseling in North Vancouver. And Chizor Vasquez is a registered social worker with Sage Mental Health in Chilliwack. Good afternoon to you both. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you. I recall my early days as a parent, sort of, bewildered and certainly underslept. For those first few days, I also recall getting, visits from a nurse to come and check in. What are the supports that are provided? And can you describe what the first couple of weeks looks like when you go home?
Yeah, so ideally, the hospital staff are quite supportive from the moment you walk through the doors, or if you have the baby at home, you may
Yes.
have a doula, but very supportive from the moment before baby's even born. But it is very much sort of like visits to the home from hospital staff, specifically if you have a midwife or a healthcare worker that will sort of, come and check in on you, see how baby's doing, take some vitals as well. Granted, you may feel a little bit sleepy, but it's all supposed to be for the best of the baby and for you as well. It's a chance for you to share any concerns you have as well with the healthcare visitors during that time.
Yeah, it was nice to just have a visitor to talk to as well. Ruth, what are the challenges that new parents face in those early days?
Oh boy, where to start? Sleep is one that comes up again
Yeah.
and again. And I
Yes.
know, you can't speak to a new parent without them mentioning that. And I remember that as well.
You
You
have
just don't
twins,
feel
right?
like yourself. Twins, yeah, they're 5 now, so I'm out of the fog, but I remember it well.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you're sleep deprived, I mean, everything suffers. Your mental health, your relationships, just
Mm,
thinking clearly, self-care. But I would say I mean, it's the compounding of it all. It's
yeah.
everything all at once, all of the changes kind of piled on top of each other. That really makes this perfect storm for new parents. It's a really tough time. Can be.
Yeah, absolutely. And sleep, you're right, is such a big challenge. I remember, doing the math. If I was able to get some sleep and just counting the hours, thinking, okay, I got two in that for that stretch. And Chizor, you actually work with parents and with people who are going through life transitions. How challenging is it for parents to just make their way through? We just heard some of those challenges, and what does help?
Yeah, it will be different for every parent. Every family's going
Sure.
to be very, very different. A lot of it depends on the type of support they have at home. So obviously, the more support, the better if it's healthy support. But a lot of times it is those challenges that they encounter is, yeah, like we said, it's the sleep, lack of sleep. It's also, especially for the mother during that time, there's so many like hormones, so many emotions going through, especially if you're a first-time parent. That's what I encounter a lot. The first-time parents, it's very new territory for them. So a lot of emotions, a lot of questions that they have, adjusting to this new lifestyle. And I think it's kind of like just being ready for the lots of ups, but there's also going to be some downs as well. But definitely having those supports around you is very crucial. Yeah.
Right, and we'll talk about the supports that do help in a moment. But Ruth talked about things compounding, and when you have life stressors that add to that, we heard about housing challenges yesterday on the show, right? And finances that so many people are struggling with right now. How do those challenges that already exist compound things?
Yeah,
Chisor,
I think. Oh, was this? Oh, for me?
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, finances for one. I think whether or not you've just had a baby or not, it's stressful. Now you add a new family member to that mix. There's a lot of anxiety going on, especially if you've had to take some leave from work. So you definitely will find yourself as that again. A lot of emotions can come out. A lot of the relationship can, it takes a toll on the relationship as well. Hopefully, if there's good communication, the family are able to sort of battle that storm. But it's not unusual for things to start to break down a little bit and sort of those challenges to come up because, yeah, both parties are anxious, both mum, dad, or mum and mum, dad and dad are anxious, right? So it's just being really, I think, kind of going into it. You can't really always prepare yourself 100% for things because we're dealing with humans, but just, as much as you can sort of be having those conversations early on about what kind of stresses you may face moving forward.
Right, and try to have a plan in place to deal with them.
Right,
And
exactly.
Ruth, are there any specific concerns or challenges for this? The young generation, the young families now. Given the kind of societal issues that we face.
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly a baseline that of stress that's existed, since people have been having babies. But yeah, the pieces that do have to do with kind of the current climate and the current, financial stresses and all that, it, it is just that extra layer of worry and stress. The other thing I do see quite a lot of, especially in Vancouver, is we're kind of a city of transplants. I mean, I don't have any stats on that, but a lot of the clients I work with are from elsewhere, or maybe one of the individuals is from elsewhere. I myself am a transplant, and so you end up with this kind of um, cobbled together village when you're trying to support a couple or new parents, which can work. And that's something I talk to clients about, is how can we piece something together, but we don't have this kind of natural built-in village of days gone by, or many people don't. So there's an isolation there, and an overwhelm, and just generally feeling stretched, and maybe overwhelmed coupled with under-resourced, if I were to kind of summarize that piece.
Overwhelmed and under-resourced. Yeah, let's talk about that a bit more as well. My guests are Ruth Skuteski, a registered clinical counselor with Illuminate Counseling in North Vancouver, and Chizor Vasquez is a registered social worker with Sage Mental Health in Chilliwack. And we are asking you what are those supports and resources that parents need in the early newborn days? What was it like for you, if you can recall, and what helped, what didn't help? If you have advice for new parents as well, you can give us a call. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell phone. And Chizor, I'll just pick that up with you, that question of isolation. What impact does that have?
Yeah, it's I think it's definitely something to take seriously. Isolation, whether you're a new parent or this is your third or fourth child, that isolation can come because, you're having to give as much care as possible to this infant that is completely dependent on you. So that may involve that you're not able to, always get on the phone to talk to friends and family. And also feelings of, being alone. Is anybody else going through this that I'm going through? Is anybody else going through these sleepless nights? So so even though in theory you may know that, but when you're actually in it, it's kind of, you start to question, am I the only one here that is not sleeping enough, is feeling this way? And that's kind of like when we start getting into sort of that postpartum depression, and you start to wonder, is anyone else feeling low, or is it just me? Those questions start to arise, and that's why it needs to be taken very seriously if isolation is something, or loneliness is something that the parent is feeling at that time.
Yeah. And, being the parent of a child with a disability, if you have complex care needs in those early days as well, that can be isolating. I know now there are lots of efforts, of parents reaching out to each other, sending baskets to hospitals and things like that. But I imagine, yes, when you have that added challenge of health issues, that's incredibly distressing, especially when you're alone.
Absolutely.
What are the resources that are needed? Whatever your situation is, Ruth, you were talking about being under-resourced and overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think, postpartum support is key for new parents, and that support has to be, in my opinion, multifaceted, right? They need the practical support, which I think we're pretty good at, in society. We get the meals trains going, and how can I help? And that's not bad, but also the psychological, emotional, relational, and the physical, right? Mind, body, and spirit. So how can we support women and individuals and couples in this transition? So sometimes it is more practical, and sometimes it's more like checking in on new moms, especially, like Chizor was saying, that isolation, it can spiral quickly to, postpartum mood and anxiety disorders, or even those feelings of shame, right? Like something's wrong with me that I'm struggling so much. And now we're talking about a bigger issue, right? So in terms of supports, certainly mental health supports. So whether that's counseling or whether it's seeing your doctor, some individuals will choose to get on medication. Some people have different opinions on that, but some of the clients I work with, certainly medication is part of their mental health planning or recovery. But the biggest piece I would say is for people to feel that they're not alone in it, that nothing's wrong with them, nothing's broken, they're not failing, that this is a hard time and other people are going through this hard time too, but we're not talking about it enough, right? We're not, like with many mental health challenges, no one's saying like, hey, I'm arguing with my partner all night long and I really hate his guts right now. And, are you too? So these kinds of things, right? Making it a bit more normal, making it a bit more, take the shame away, because that shame is a sticky one when it comes to mental health.
That's interesting. Chizor, what do you want to say about that? I imagine social media hasn't helped. We present this glowing picture of life at home.
Yeah, no, it's sort of like this pristine look of how the first few weeks are. And yeah, thanks so much. That point about, we're not out here, many of us are not out here talking about how, I'm really stressed and me and my partner are arguing and we're not sleeping because of, the journey that we're on. We don't talk about it enough. But I do think, though, that it's becoming a little bit more people are becoming a little bit more open, especially like on social media. You kind of see that you see two sides of it. Some people are being more forthcoming with showing, for example, I've not been able to get to the laundry this week because I'm dealing with a baby, and they show the piles of laundry, which can be quite comforting, again, knowing that it's not just me. There are other people out here that are going through what I'm, dealing with. But absolutely, I agree. There is still very much this idea that or this image of when I come through after pregnancy, I'm going to just have this amazing time and it's going to be lots of breastfeeding, bottle feeding, and me and my partner are just going to be this loving couple, which is not impossible. But the reality is that sometimes those stresses do hit quite badly at times.
And if you don't have a partner and then that might be compounded as well. But talking about it is very important, which is what we're doing today. Asking you, our audience, to weigh in. What supports do new parents need in those early newborn days? Let us know what it was like for you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Diana is calling us from Burnaby. Hi, Diana. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, it's a wonderful topic. And I remember 9 years ago when I gave birth to my daughter, I was suffering with terrible postpartum depression. And my worries was my doctor actually picked it early in my pregnancy, so they assigned a psychologist for me to see weekly. And that helped a lot, of course, with the support of the family and friends. But I've been told if I didn't get that early sign up to see the psychologist, the wait list is long, and we don't even get to see a psychologist or psychiatrist for probably years.
Right.
And that got me worried because, I was lucky, but what about women that don't have that, picked up quickly from their GP or whatever doctor they see, and they need help, and there's no available help? Has that changed? And, I don't know. That is 9 years ago. So my question is anything that has improved that we can help these women? This is a terrible feeling. I remember this vividly.
I can't imagine. And Diana, so important to talk about needed resources for mental health. I really appreciate your calling in and sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Diana in Burnaby, and asking, have things gotten better? Ruth, as a registered clinical counselor, have they that wait for a psychologist if you need to see someone?
Certainly within the mental health system, that's covered by MSP. There's long waits for mental health care. Ideally, we do triaging, right? So the people who are really, really suffering, or if they're suicidal, we're getting those people in pretty darn fast. But psychiatry is a specialty. It's like seeing a cardiologist, right? It does take time to get in to see a psychiatrist if it's kind of an issue of medication and assessment. Now, counselors, this is where kind of counselors and social workers can come in. But a lot of us are private pay, right?
Yeah.
And that's of course a barrier. You know, many of the clients I work with, they have extended benefits, right? And they have, you know, decent paying jobs. And I recognize that's not always the case. So what we are starting to see more and more of, which is great, is sliding scale counseling. So you can have maybe somebody who's interning or finishing their clinical hours who are, you know, waiting for their registration or are almost there and they're being supervised. And that can be a really great way to get in. There's usually very little wait if you're willing to see a student. So that's fantastic. And then what we're also seeing more and more of is, you know, earlier screening. We need to do a better job at this, but even, you know, doctors and nurse practitioners are getting better at being more ahead of the game,
vigilant,
detecting the risks when it comes to mental health, so that if they do need to go on a wait list, that we're starting that as early as possible. We're getting those referrals in and we're getting the wheels turning. But absolutely, Diana, that's a hard one. And I don't know if that particular piece has shifted all that much.
Chizor, what about you? What's your observation?
Yeah, I think I have to agree there. There has been some shift. There has been more resources pumped in certain areas. Are we where we should be? Perhaps not. One thing I have noticed, I think the BC College of Social Work, started to expand their licensing criteria in the sense that they've now, I think they've started the registered clinical social work following the US model. That gives social workers a bit more room when it comes to assessing and, you know, treatment and stuff like that. But again, it goes back to see these type of social workers, you may need those extended benefits or private pay, and it can be seen as a luxury at times. But I do, you know, feel that there is being, again, like more triaging in terms of, especially those that are in dire need of support. They are, you know, hospitals and clinics are trying to see these groups of people as quickly as possible. But I think there's still some way to go in that area.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for the call, Diana. Chris is up next now in Sydney. Hi, Chris. What are the supports for new parents that are needed?
Hello, Michelle. Yes, I'm calling as I'm carving my pumpkin for tonight. And I'm now 70, but I had a daughter in the 80s in Vancouver. I was new to Canada. I worked through my pregnancy, and then it was a job where there wasn't any maternity leave anyway. So when I gave birth, my job was over. You know, there's no place to go back. I would say what was really important for my supports were the social supports, those little social supports that I could find. And those were through the community center where they had the moms and babes come together. And I just couldn't have enough of that. I needed to break that isolation that was so, it was such a burden to be alone. You know, the early days of the 50s where the mothers gathered around with their babies and had coffee. Well, I kept thinking, where is everyone? Everyone's working. And so I found that the community center was really important. I got very depressed through that experience. They had it from 9 to 12, and I wanted it to be all day. You know, like don't close down at 12. I have to go home. Yeah. So also, I was able to find a self-help support group for postpartum depression, and I'm wondering if your guests know of community-based postpartum depression self-help groups for moms. I think we medicalize motherhood so much that going to the doctor or having the nurse come and weigh the baby just wasn't enough. I needed the social support, the social connections that I didn't have.
Yeah, good for you as well. Very intrepid of you to seek that, right? To go to the community center.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely to hear from you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Chizor, do you know about any support groups? Are there more of them now?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, so I spent a significant time down in the Okanagan, and Strong Start was a huge program that was running Strong Start centers. Originally I'm from the UK, and we have Short Start, which is again the same kind of model. And that's sort of like that support where you can go, new mothers of toddler, just to go interact with other mothers, participate in groups. One thing that is also helpful is that each city, I believe in BC, should have the equivalent of like a family resource center. These resource centers will often put on they're often free of charge groups for mothers or parents, to attend, and they can attend these groups and they can get, whether it's parenting support, whether it's just sort of that social interaction like the last caller was talking about. So these are often in every city have these family resource centers that you can access.
Let me squeeze in one last call. You're right. I did go to those, and I love them. They had coffee as well, so that was great. Christine is our last caller in Lake Country. Hi, Christine.
Hi there. How's it going?
Really well. And then, what did you want to share about supports needed?
Well, I have a 5-year-old and a 4-month-old, and both of them had severe tongue and lip ties. And now my husband and I are fortunate enough that we have extended help, but I can't imagine having to pay $1,200 to have that tongue tie basically fixed.
Wow.
And if you can't afford it, your baby can't eat very well.
So oh wow. And so you had to go to a dentist for this procedure?
Yes, a dentist for laser treatment.
Wow. And it cost $1,200.
Yeah, I mean, my son 5 years ago was $800, and we just took my daughter 4 months ago, and it was up to $1,200.
Oh my goodness, how is she doing?
Amazing. Yeah, she's feeding very well and gaining weight.
Good to hear. But your point about coverage for those procedures, again, another barrier. Really nice to hear from you, Christine. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. And we have a suggestion from Jacqueline in Vancouver suggesting the La Leche League. And she went to baby groups and community centers, recommends having that community before giving birth. And she says she wished she got connected with the church groups ahead of time. La Leche League to help with feeding as well. Ruth, you touched on this earlier, right? And Chizor as well, those financial barriers to the services that are needed. Here we are. It sounds like her children needed these procedures. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to feed or to eat. Dentistry not covered, though. So that's another conversation there. But I really appreciate both of you for coming on and discussing this with us. It is important to talk about it. I'm really glad that you were with us for it.
My pleasure. It's such an important conversation.
It really is, and we'll continue to have it. Thank you for your time. Ruth Skuteski is a registered clinical counselor with Illuminate Counseling in North Vancouver. Chizor Vasquez is a registered social worker with Sage Mental Health in Chilliwack. It's 12:33, 1:33 in the Mountain Time Zone. Coming up in our next half hour, it's Halloween, fun for all ages. We are going to talk about costumes. We want to hear all about your creative, your crafty, your cost-savvy DIY costumes. We'll be joined by the head of wardrobe for the Arts Club Theatre. That's coming up after the CBC News Update with Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Doctors in northern Gaza say Israel's bombardment of the territory's largest refugee camp has killed dozens of Palestinians. The Hamas-run health ministry says hundreds more are injured. Israel's military says the attack was part of an operation to kill a top Hamas commander inside the camp. BC United opposition leader Kevin Falcon says if his party forms government next year, he will axe the provincial carbon tax on all fuels and halt any planned future increases. Falcon made the announcement in Victoria this morning, saying removing the tax will cut fuel costs for farmers and could lead to lower grocery costs for consumers. And the Vancouver Park Board has approved a long-term plan for the city's 6 public golf courses. It voted unanimously to preserve them as parkland, rejecting suggestions the land could be redeveloped for non-park uses, including housing. And now the forecast on the north coast, cloudy this afternoon with a high of 6, highs reaching 3 and cloudy in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 3 as well. Highs from 0 to 6 with lots of sunshine in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, mainly sunny with a high of 3. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria and the Fraser Valley, a mix of sun and cloud this afternoon with highs up to 11 degrees. I'll have more local news at the top of the hour. Now back to Michelle with BC Today.
Hello. Thanks.
Hi.
Rob.
Sure.
Yes. You can see I have my cardigan.
I can.
Can you? And I've got
yes.
my bee antenna.
Nice.
So I am Cardi
Cardi B, gotcha. Adorable.
I thought you'd like that. I also wanted to introduce you to a few of my friends here.
Sure,
We
great.
have we have here. So Melody is now a dark fairy, looking fabulous in a
She
purple
is, yeah.
wig, and we have Chad, reporter Chad Pawson, as a pilot, and he went all in.
He
With
sure
the
did.
hat
Chad
and the
is looking
scarf
good.
and everything, and our reporter Karis Hogg is
Sorry, what is Karis dressed
Karis
up as? Sorry?
She calls it a sexy Darth Vader
Sexy Darth Vader.
because she
okay.
has fishnets. So just add fishnets to anything and you
We
make
do
it
not
sexy.
see the fishnets,
Apparently.
Karis.
There you go. Well, they're pink gloves.
Oh.
So and fishnets, yes.
Oh.
With
oh
her
my
shorts,
goodness.
but she does have the Darth Vader, and we
Family
have
show, Karis.
yeah, and we have it's just shorts and fishnets for everybody listening. That's
Yeah.
all it is. And we have Steve Jung, who is a traffic reporter
Hey,
on
that's
the
pretty cute.
coast, and he
Yeah.
is apropos to his role, he is Highway 1 during rush hour. And as you can see, he's wearing a T-shirt with cars that are not moving; they're just stuck on his
I like
shirt.
it. I dressed up as a balding middle-aged newsreader. So I think I pulled it off.
I think you did. I think you pulled it off. I hope you wear that next Halloween.
I just might.
You just might wear it tomorrow. And also, this is Bruce Pumpkin Spicestein, our little pumpkin here. Thanks, guys. The newsroom, because I'm in line with my costume. The newsroom is all abuzz with these costumes. I have to say,
I get that.
they're just fantastic. Rob, I know you enjoyed every second of that.
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Rob.
See ya.
Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. We are having a lot of fun here in the newsroom today with all our costumes. And everybody came up with something kind of creative, I would say. We want to hear about yours too. It's Halloween, and I know my kids went out with their costumes this morning. We want to hear all about your creative DIY costumes. Tonight is a big night. You can showcase them with us. Either you can email them, your pictures to us, bctoday@cbc.ca. You can call in and tell us all about it. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And joining us, and our email, by the way, is bctoday@cbc.ca for your pictures. But joining us up is someone who knows a thing or two about costumes. Kirsten McGee is head of wardrobe for the Arts Club Theatre Company in Vancouver. Hi, Kirsten.
Hi.
Oh,
How are you?
Very good. Tell us, first of all, where you are. And I'm going to take off my antenna because they're just bobbing all over the place while I'm talking. Tell us where you are and what's behind you there.
Well, I'm in one of the dressing rooms at the BMO Theatre Center, and this side of me is a former costume. Oh, gotta go this way. An old costume line from a couple years ago where I dressed as a lobster, and then on the other side of me is my costume for this year, which is all ready for a special party on this coming Saturday, and it's a Gothic cathedral, and it lights up.
I was going to say, is it a lantern? Is it one of those Tiffany lamps?
It's meant to be like a stained glass window.
Like a stained glass window, and you're all of a cathedral, all encompassed into one costume. That's
right.
But it's a gorgeous dress, though.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
my
you.
goodness. And okay. So the other one on your left is a lobster, but it is actually a very beautiful dress.
It's
well.
a bustle style tail, and the dress form doesn't have legs, so I couldn't put the bottoms on, but it's like a little corset top and a vest. Yeah.
Wow. What goes into, well, first of all, let me ask, why do we get into it? I mean, when I came in to work this morning, I saw one costume and it just made me giggle. And in fact, I saw Melody's purple wig, and then there was another costume and another one, and just a lot of kind of whimsy in the newsroom. Like, why are we drawn to dressing up?
Well, I know that I'm drawn to dressing up because it's so fun to just kind of become, another character. And just and watch what everybody else, you get to see a little bit of somebody else's personality that you might not get to see every day at work,
Yes,
get to see a
that's
little bit what they're into or what their fun side is.
Yes, I never knew Chad Pawson always wanted to become a pilot. There's that. Let's take a call. I know people want to talk about their costumes. Our numbers, tell us all about yours and what went into putting it together. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And Sheena is on the line from Victoria. Hi, Sheena.
Hi, Michelle. Okay, I might run out of phone, so I'm going to talk quickly. When I was 8 years old, my friend and I went as Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, I was 8 and I still remember it. So we had fun making it. We had fun planning it. I wore a yellow T-shirt. My mom helped me cut out and apply some zigzag
The black
pattern.
zigzag across, yeah.
Yeah, and for the bald head, we cut off an old piece of her nylon and made a bald head for me and just drew his little curly cue.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And my friend was the Great Pumpkin with 2 orange Bristol boards, front and back, and just put holes in them, draped them over her shoulders, and drew pumpkin lines on it. So it was fun, and it was planet-friendly because we didn't buy cheap nylon or polyester, which are both made from oil, costumes at a store.
Yeah.
And all those costumes are shipped from Asia. They're a planetary disaster.
There's
So I
the
want to
waste.
challenge.
Yeah,
I
go
want to
ahead.
challenge everybody to make a planet-friendly costume and just have fun. I went as a nurse twice, wearing my mom's nurse
Yes.
uniform. Once as a teenager, looking like a real nurse, and once as an early 20s ghoulish nurse.
Oh,
blood all over
fun.
the place.
Oh, that's fun. Sheena,
It was really fun.
and that's a great challenge, right? Reduce waste, be friendly to the planet, and you can cut your costs too. Thank you so much.
And spend quality time with your kids.
That's
having
absolutely
fun. That's quality
right.
time.
That
Going to the
is-
store is not.
That is a delight. Sheena, thank you so much. Have a happy Halloween, okay?
You too, Michelle. Bye.
Bye-bye. And we have a picture sent to us by Brooke by email, bctoday@cbc.ca. And Brooke sent us a photo of her 8-year-old Oliver. And she says he's 8 and wanted to be our boxer/lab cross Ruby. Oh my gosh, I made the mask out of felt and embroidery thread. And because it's cold up here in Fort St. James, I made the Halloween costume each year on a men's hoodie so the kids can wear the costume over a winter coat. Isn't that smart? It works great. And Betty, and I have to say, Oliver looks adorable. And you even put some white on him, white gloves and a white sort of scarf in the front to show some spots. And that is a fabulous mask. I can see where you've used felt for the nose. That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Brooke. Oliver is adorable. And also Betty sent us a photo of her dog, Charlie, who is wearing a pumpkin costume. And this is after a visit to a senior center. Oh, I'm sure they were just delighted to see Charlie. Thank you so much for that. Look at him sitting in the car with a pumpkin costume. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much for those photos. bctoday@cbc.ca is where you can send them. We love seeing them and showing them to everybody else. And you can call us and let us know about your costumes as well. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And let me go back to my guest, Kirsten McGee, who is head of wardrobe at the Arts Club Theatre. That point about waste and being planet friendly when it comes to costumes, right? We think about it's sort of Halloween and Christmas. We accumulate a lot of stuff and waste a lot of stuff. How can we rein that in as we try and create our wonderful costumes?
Well, I always try to try to use things that I have if I can. Recycling old clothing is a really great idea. I'm kind of an all out costume builder, and because I do it for a living, I have lots of bins full of bits and pieces. And
Right.
lots of
Yes.
fabric. Even this, my dress over here, all of that, the stained glass organza all came out of scraps of fabric that I already had. And Yeah, so it's
I
try to
imagine
use what you can.
I imagine you just look at all the scraps, the threads and the cloths that you have, and the imagination just goes. You just let it run wild, eh?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is really beautiful, that the bottom of that dress with a stained glass. I can see that it's made of organza, just very light and airy. And you said it actually lights up.
Yeah, it has. You can't really see because the room is so light. It's not lit up right now, but yeah. There's. I programmed some lights with a friend, and there's a little Arduino board in there, and it flickers like candlelight.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's take another call now, and Keith is joining us from Vancouver. And what's your costume, Keith?
Yeah, it was a few years ago in Banff. I worked there for a year. And there's many elk around, so I thought I would go as a drunk elk. So I made a costume out of chicken wire for the skull cap, which dug into my head and hurt quite a bit. But then again, I was a drunk elk, so I didn't totally feel it a whole lot. I was much younger, and I dyed my long underwear brown. I painted a white patch on the bum, and I went to the staff pub at the Banff Springs to try to win. Not so much try to win a prize, but just went out for the night. And I was in the final 3, and they asked the drunk elk to come out and strut his stuff. So I started charging people with my horns.
Right.
And unfortunately, I won 3rd prize. The people that won actually rented their costumes in Calgary, and Ernie and Bert evidently won 1st and 2nd.
Uh-huh. They were probably a lot safer for the crowd.
Yeah, maybe a bit. They're a little more family friendly, but and lastly, if I could say, the one thing I really want people to support this Halloween is the community haunted houses. I used to volunteer at the Dunbar Haunted House,
right,
which is no longer. It ran its course. Incredible place. And right now there's all kinds over the city, but one that I'm helping out at right now is the Dovercourt Crypt.
Okay.
And I only tell people this, they don't necessarily need more people. It's just incredible the amount of work that Mark and his partner Liz and all the other volunteers have put into this. So it's just amazing the detail that's gone into this. So it's super fun.
Oh, I bet. And what a community effort as well.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on winning 3rd prize. You didn't expect. Keith, thanks so much for that. What a great description. A drunk elk, rather. That's a whole nother costume. Drunk elk in Banff in 1992. Want to hear from you? What is the clever costume that you've come up with? We want to hear all about it. How did you put it together? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And I really want to thank our emailers for sending us photos of their costumes. We got one of a dog, and we got one of a child dressed up as their dog. You can email them to us, bctoday@cbc.ca. And let's go back to Kirsten McGee, head of wardrobe at the Arts Club Theatre in Vancouver. And so you mentioned all you happen to have a lot of access to materials, but for other people, what are what kinds of materials, basic tools should they have on hand? Say they're wanting to make a costume last minute. What are some things they can scrounge around the house for?
You can always scrounge around the house for, I think it's really good to have a few sewing things, hot glue gun, zap straps, also very handy. If you want to make a headdress or something, you can start with a headband or an old baseball hat. You can always use bits of craft foam or felt,
right? And
cut up old clothes for fabric, and dig around your house. You never know what you have. I know I've got a lot of stuff in my house.
Always things you can repurpose. I know I cut up my daughter's dress, the bottom of her dress, because it was too long, but it was this really gorgeous light fabric that we can use for a belt or something perhaps, and maybe we can match costumes. I'll come up with something for myself. Anne is joining us from Falkland. Hi, Anne.
Hi.
Hi, what's the costume you've made?
Well, I used to on Saturday because I had very short notice. I was taking my granddaughter to a party, and then her parents said an hour before, "Oh, costumes are mandatory." I thought, "Oh, really? For me too?" So I thought, well, I have lots of black things, so I'll be a spider. But of course, I had to have 4 extra legs to make up enough. So my son lent me his ski vest, and we put I had another black hoodie. So I used the hoodie and stuffed the arms of that hoodie, and then another hoodie, and stuffed those, which gave me 8 extra extremities, right? And put one hood over my head, and used a black mask that was hanging around from COVID times, black gloves. That pretty well does it. If I'd had more time, I might have put like a red hourglass or something on.
Right, but you had essentially what you were wearing, and then 2 hoodies on top?
Yeah, 2 hoodies. It's kind of stuck between the armholes of his black vest so they could come out the side.
Right. And that. What was it like moving around?
Well, I couldn't drive with it, of course, so that was why it was nice, mostly attached to the vest. So when I got there, I could just slip the vest on and put the hood up. And, because, it'd be fine if you were walking around, but not great if you're trying to drive.
Yes, sitting and all squeezed in. And did people know you were a spider, or did you have to explain
it? Yes, they seemed to get it.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. That was successful then.
Anyway, I just wanted to, because of the idea of making things from what you have around.
Yes.
Just think about it for a minute. Usually there's something in there and you think, oh, yeah, I could do that.
Usually there's something in there. Thank you very much. Way to improvise.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, Anne, thanks so much.
You're welcome.
That's Anne in Falkland. There you go, right, Kirsty? It's Kirsten. It's what you have around. But I wonder about that. You know, you make costumes for plays, for stage, and I know you're working on. I was going to say Halloween is like Christmas for you, but you, in fact, are also working on Christmas costumes.
That's right. Yes. I'm taking a break from Elf the musical to come and talk about Halloween. So
yes, exactly. You're already planning ahead. Is there ever a challenge with, with making? I mean, I imagine that the actors are moving a lot on stage. You know, how do you make sure that they stay put? Because that's going to be a challenge for the little kids running around doing trick or treating tonight. How do you make sure that things stay put?
Well, we have a lot of tricks for musicals, especially with we sometimes kind of like backwards suspenders, you might call them, on the bottoms of shirts that actually go between your legs to keep your shirts tucked in. And we use Velcro, and we sometimes, like when we build costumes that are going to be danced in, we build what's called a gusset in the armpits so that they have like more reach underneath their arm, because they have to maybe do cartwheels or flips. Oh, yeah. Or something like that. So they need that little extra fabric so that they don't blow their armpits of their costumes out.
It can stretch further.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. And do you have them test things out first? I imagine in rehearsal they test things out.
In their fittings, we get them to try it out. And they're all up at the theater right now doing tech in costumes, testing out their costumes. To get ready for the opening night, which is in about a week from now.
Oh my God. Is it Christmas already then? Is that
it's already at the Art Club?
As soon as the pumpkins come down and the candy's gotten rid of, it's Christmas.
Exactly.
Marilyn is joining us from Campbell River. Hi, Marilyn.
Hi.
Hi. And do you want to tell us about your costume or your kids' costumes?
Well, it was our costumes. I had several memorable costumes, but the best two, I guess, are a while ago we went to a Halloween party as a couple, and we made our costumes. He had a pair of flannel pajamas. I had a long flannel nightgown, and we had some long scarves. And we went to the Value Village and bought a bunch of tiny teddy bears and pinned them to the scarves. And I tied my scarf around my chest, and he tied his scarf around his hips. And we were a bare-chested woman and a bare-bottom man.
I was waiting for the punchline, and it was so worth it. That is so good. How did people react?
They thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very clever. How did you come up with that?
Very simple to make.
How did you come up with that idea, Marilyn?
I don't know. It just worked out.
It just worked out. That is very funny. I'm sure you got a good laugh or two.
Oh, yes, we did.
I bet you did.
A couple of more that we had in our repertoire was my daughter once went as a picnic table, and we had a nephew go as an exploded demolition expert.
Oh, boy.
But there's probably not time to describe those.
No, there isn't, but we can imagine. So the picnic table, I'm trying to imagine it. I'm guessing since you're good at sticking things on things, there were kind of picnic
It started
items.
with a cardboard box that fit over her shoulders and her body, and an old paper tablecloth, some paper plates and cups. And I used the head of a Batman costume and stuck some antennas on it, cut a hole for her head, and she came up through it, and she was the ant on the picnic table.
You are very creative, Marilyn. I'm guessing this is like your time when it's Halloween. It's like Mariah Carey and Christmas. It's my time to shine. I love those. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you called in.
Okay.
We have that's Marilyn in Campbell River. Christine sent us a costume she made for her grandson, of Beaker and the Muppet Show. And she writes, a pressed foam sheet makes the head shape, black nylon over the mouth for a place to look through, bright orange hair, googly eyes, and a stuffed fabric nose. He didn't say trick or treat. He said, me, in a high-pitched voice. Add a lab coat, and there it is. His costume was a hit of the neighborhood. I said, me. Thank you very much. Oh, that is so cute and actually quite spot on. So, Christine, thank you very much. And Kirsten, this is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. Halloween always is.
It really is. In our 30 seconds here, any final tips for people if they are thinking about a last-minute costume?
Just go for it. Be creative. Don't be afraid. Show your Halloween spirit. Let it fly.
Let it fly. Wordplay apparently works too.
Yeah, I love it.
So fun to speak with you. Thank you very much. Good luck with the opening of the Elf musical.
Thank you so much.
And one final picture to wrap. Kyla in Victoria sent us this picture. A past weekend, my husband and I had fun with our DIY costumes, dressing up as Alfred Hitchcock and his muse Tippi Hedren from the classic horror film The Birds. And they wish everyone a happy Halloween. My thanks to Kirsten McGee of the Arts Club Theatre. And do send us more of your photos. We love them. We can show them bctoday@cbc.ca. Have a happy Halloween. I'm going to put my antenna on. Take care. Stay safe out there.